Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Brothers channel. And today I'm going to be doing a versus video between the Kyrie Low 4 and the Kyrie 7. The Kyrie Low 4 is going for 110 bucks and the Kyrie 7 is going for 130 bucks. The Kyrie Low 4, you can actually do Nike by you. There are pretty limited colors, but only for $20 more or the same price as the Kyrie 7, like 130 bucks, you can customize this shoe, which is really dope. So if you guys do want to cop either of these shoes or the ID, I'll leave a link in the description box. But let's get it started right away with the Tracciones, and it's the exact same, right? So as you guys can see, the actual pattern is exactly the same, and the rubber compound is also exactly the same, right? So they perform extremely well. Top tier traction performance, right? So stop is extremely good. Very minimal dust pickup. Like I actually never have to wipe really at all. Maybe a couple of times after like 5 to 7 plays, you know, like really never. And the only thing about both of these is that it's just extremely not durable. So if you're gonna be playing on an outdoor court, I would not recommend it. Like I had to buy 2 pairs of the Kyrie 7 because my first pair of the Kyrie 7 in this exact colorway, the outsole literally wore out to the bone, like all the way down in like 3 to 4 times that I played, and that's how bad the durability was. So I'm guessing it's going to be exactly the same in the Kyrie Low 4. So durability is very bad in both of the shoes, but for performance, they're pretty much exactly the same top tier performance. All right, as far as the heel to toe transition goes, it's pretty much the exact same as well. The shape of the outsole is the exact same, right? So here in the heel, we have a nice curved shape. Here in the forefoot, a very nice curved shape as well. I would say the Kyrie Low 4, there is a little bit more forefoot flex. As you guys can see, the Kyrie 7 doesn't flex as easily. I'm putting a little bit more force into it, probably because the Zoom Turbo unit. The Zoom Turbo unit is a little bit bigger than the Zoom unit here in the Kyrie Low 4, which we'll get into. But as far as the heel to toe transition, they're both pretty much the same. Pretty damn smooth for both of these shoes. All right, the cushioning setup is where it gets a little bit different, right? So the Kyrie Low 4, we got full length Cushlon, right? That's supposed to be super nice, right? No, it's actually not. I would say there's a little bit more compression. It's a little bit softer than the Phylon found here in the Kyrie 7, but not by much. So I mean, if you really want this kind of softer cushion here in the heel, then the Kyrie Low 4 is a little bit better. Here in the forefoot, the Kyrie 7 has a Zoom Turbo unit. The Kyrie Low 4 has pretty much just a rectangular Zoom unit, and obviously the Kyrie 7 feels better. You know, you feel it all throughout the forefoot. Here in the Kyrie Low 4, you pretty much feel it with that little strip, you know, like kind of on the ball of your foot a little bit as well. So yeah, I mean, it all depends on what you like. If you want a nice forefoot Zoom unit, Kyrie 7. If you want the just slightly better cushion in the heel, then go with the Kyrie Low 4. Everything else is pretty much the same, you know, like the court feel. Responsiveness, I would say, is pretty much the same as well as impact protection. I mean, if you're landing on your forefoot, the Kyrie 7 is probably a little bit better, but I mean, you don't really need impact protection in your forefoot all too much because you have your Achilles to absorb all of that impact, right? It's all in the heel. If you do heel strikes, you need more impact protection. So I guess the Kyrie Low 4 is a little bit better for that, but pretty much they're both very similar besides the forefoot Zoom unit. So there's that. Moving on to the materials. Materials are very similar as well, right? So the overall feel on foot is pretty much exactly the same to me, I would say. So here in the forefoot, the Kyrie 7 has an extremely thin material, so it feels very minimal on foot, as well as the Kyrie Low 4. The Kyrie Low 4 is extremely thin as well. And of course, both of these shoes have what Nike is calling fingers. The Kyrie 7 is a lot more minimal, I would say. The Kyrie Low 4 is a lot thicker and also a lot bigger because it's attached here, right? But they both fundamentally do the same exact thing. They provide support and give you a little bit better lockdown once you tighten the laces here for the first 2 eyelets. Moving on to here to the midfoot, they're both extremely thin as well. And then for the tongue, they both have an average amount of padding. Moving on to the ankle area, they both have an average amount of padding as well. So on foot, like I said, they both feel extremely similar. As far as the quality goes though, I don't know. I think I like the Kyrie Low 4 a little bit better. The Kyrie 7, even though the shoe is pretty much broken in, it feels still a little flimsy, just a tiny bit flimsy. And the Kyrie Low 4 is just like mostly just like soft. I would say like the Kyrie Low 4 has a little better quality, I guess. But for the most part on foot, they both feel extremely similar. All right, moving on to the fit, pretty much the same. You know, go true to size if you want an extremely snug fit, right? So I go true to size in both of these shoes, and I like my ball shoes to fit extremely snug for me. So lengthwise, my foot pretty much goes right to the edge of the shoe in both of the shoes. Widthwise, they're also pretty narrow, and also the toe space is extremely snug, like almost to the point where I can't even like curl my toes in both of these shoes. So that's just how I like my fit. If you don't like that at all, obviously go up half a size or maybe even a full size. Or if you know what size you were in the Kyrie 6 or even the Kyrie 5, pretty much should go the same size as those. All right, moving on to the support and lockdown. Support and lockdown is phenomenal. So here on the lateral side for lateral containment, both of these shoes are pretty much the exact same. So here in the forefoot, we got the foam coming up here in the Kyrie Low 4. And then for the Kyrie 7, we got this plastic clip. So that's a little bit of a difference there. And then here in the heel, we got the foam coming up, acting as a sidewall in both of the shoes, as well as an internal TPU heel counter in both of the shoes. So for lateral containment, you're good to go. You don't really need to worry about that. You know, Kyrie is very shifty, doing a lot of lateral movements. So obviously, his shoes need to have really good lateral containment, right? As far as the lateral stability goes, they're both really good as well. There's really no outrigger in either of the shoes, but the outsole does protrude out a good amount. You're low to the ground. You got a wide base as well in both of the shoes. So lateral stability, I had no issues with. And also another thing I forgot to mention is the outsole curvature, but the outsole curvature is pretty much the same as well. Pretty flat, especially comparing it to like the original, like the Kyrie 2 and the Kyrie 3, where they had a lot of outsole curvature. The Kyrie 7 and the Kyrie Low 4 is pretty much identical, where it's pretty flat, and then here there is a little bit of curve where the ball of your foot is. And of course, we have a lot of the rubber coming up on the medial side of the shoe for extra grip when you're doing these types of movements. So outsole curvature is pretty much the same. One thing that is different though is obviously the Kyrie Low 4 is a low, and then the Kyrie 7 is pretty much a mid top, kind of high top, right? So it goes pretty high, it covers up the ankle bone, and if you tighten these last 2 or 3 eyelets pretty tight, you get pretty good ankle movement restriction, so ankle support a little bit, I would say. So that's one thing I definitely noticed, right? So when I'm running down the court, the Kyrie 7, when I was playing in this shoe, I don't know what it was, but I'm not used to playing in high tops or even like mid tops or shoes that have a little bit of ankle support. And I definitely noticed, you know, like not your calves, but like on this side of your leg, I definitely noticed it kind of like tensing up a little bit because I usually play in low top shoes. So that's one thing that I found a little annoying in the Kyrie 7s. But of course, if you're used to playing in like high tops or mid tops, the Kyrie 7 will be fine. The Kyrie Low 4, obviously, like I mentioned, you don't really get any type of ankle support, but I had no issues with like me like rolling my ankle or anything because like I mentioned before, it is a low and wide base. So for me personally, I like the Kyrie Low 4 because personally for me, I just like low tops better. All right, moving on to the weight of the shoe. If I remember correctly, it was pretty much the same, right? So the Kyrie Low 4, I feel like was like what, 11 point something, 12 point something, 11.82 ounces. And then the Kyrie 7, it was like 11.85 ounces. That's pretty much the exact same weight. So obviously the only material that's a little bit different is this. And I don't really know why it's the exact same weight though. Maybe, I guess this plastic clip, like I mentioned before, is a little bit thicker, but I don't really understand why it's the same weight. You would think the Kyrie Low 4 would be a little bit lighter, maybe like 0.2 ounces lighter. But anyways, they both feel extremely responsive, right? So traction is top tier, cushion is very responsive, support's there and all that. So you're gonna feel really quick. And when you tell the shoe to do something, it's going to do something, right? You're not going to get any type of lag. So yeah, they both feel like Kyries, and obviously they are Kyries. They both feel really responsive, very lightweight, very minimal on foot and all that. So weight, pretty much the same. All right, moving on to the aesthetics. I would say I like the Kyrie 7 a little bit more. The Kyrie Low 4, or maybe it's just the colorway. I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of this colorway. And there's a couple of dope colorways for the Kyrie Low 4, but you know, same goes for the Kyrie 7. Like all the Kyrie 7 colorways are sick actually. And looking at the dope colorways, I would still say I like the Kyrie 7 better aesthetically. So tell us what you guys think looks better down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, right? So they both performed really similarly, right? And this is a first because the Kyrie low line is usually very different, right? They don't usually have the same outsole and same midsole. You know, I feel like Nike was a little bit lazy. They're probably trying to save a little bit of money making the same exact molds for the Kyrie Low 4, obviously, right? Because the Kyrie Low 1, 2, and 3 weren't similar really at all to the actual Kyrie signature line. So yeah, they were actually a little bit different in performance, but the Kyrie 7 and the Kyrie Low 4 are very similar. They actually feel really similar on foot. You know, traction is the same pretty much, cushion is pretty much the same, the zoom in is just a little bit nicer here in the Kyrie 7. Materials are very thin, very minimal on foot, support is there and all that, court feel is pretty much the same. And so yeah, I mean, pretty much the only difference I would say is the zoom unit, but is that worth $20 more to you guys? And also, obviously, the ankle support. And in my case, I like to play in lows better as opposed to like this mid cut, because I mean, like, this part doesn't really even give you that much ankle movement restriction. It doesn't give you that much ankle support. But for me personally, like I said, when I was playing it, it was a little bit annoying because I guess like my ankle or whatever, my legs weren't used to the high top and the ankle support. So that's why for me personally, I would say I like the Kyrie Low 4 better. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention though is there is a little bit of heel slippage here in the Kyrie Low 4, which sucks. Not a huge deal though. I mean, I definitely did notice it when I was playing, but it wasn't to the point where like my heel was slipping out of the shoe and like it was dangerous. I just felt it a little bit and it was just a minor inconvenience. It was just a little annoying, so it wasn't a huge deal for me. So that's why like I don't really mind it all too much. Usually I hate heel slippage, but it wasn't that bad in this shoe. So because of that, I would say I like the Kyrie Low 4 a little bit better. But like I said, if you want to spend the extra 20 bucks and you want a little bit of ankle support and that bigger zoom turbo unit, go with the Kyrie 7. But anyways, that about concludes this versus video. Again, if you guys do want to cop either of these shoes, I'll leave links below. Hope this video helped you guys out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.